Yes, come on.
Please, no.
Come on.
No.
I said.
Who is there?
Prepare to unleash your darkest fears with Prime Video's top 20 scariest horror movies. From heart-pounding scares to twisted tales of terror, these disturbing selections will haunt your dreams. Number 20, Johnny Frank Garrett's Last Word.
You can't kill me. I will live in your nightmares.
This ends tonight.
On Halloween night in 1981, a Catholic nun is found murdered in Amarillo, Texas. Within days, 18-year-old Johnny Frank Garrett is arrested, tried, and sentenced to death under a cloud of flawed evidence and public hysteria. Before his execution, Garrett writes a final, furious letter proclaiming his innocence and placing a deadly curse on everyone involved in his conviction. Soon after, a chain of strange and violent deaths begins claiming the jurors, lawyers, and officials tied to the case. As fear spreads, one man tries to unravel the truth behind the supernatural vengeance that seems to stalk them all. Blending Southern Gothic horror with courtroom dread, the film explores how guilt festers long after the verdict is read. Number 19, It Stains the Sands Red. In a sun-scorched desert outside Las Vegas, Molly, an aimless party girl fleeing the chaos of a zombie outbreak, finds herself stalked by a lone, undead corpse. Directed by Colin Minihan, the film transforms a basic survival setup into a twisted psychological journey. With no water, no help, and nowhere to hide, Molly's cat-and-mouse game with the relentless zombie becomes a slow, hallucinatory crawl through madness and self-reflection. Each step she takes strips away her bravado, forcing her to confront her past sins as the desert mirrors her growing despair. Number 18, Black Mountainside.
I don't know, maybe it was an animal.
For Christ's sake, that was no animal.
When was the last time you slept?
I'm not sure.
In the dead of winter, a team of archaeologists stationed in the snowy wilderness of northern Canada uncover a strange, ancient structure buried beneath the ice, one that predates known civilization. As they study the find, their communications go silent, their supplies dwindle, and tensions erupt into suspicion and dread. One by one, the men begin to succumb to violent hallucinations and unexplainable sickness, as something primal and unspoken awakens from the frozen earth. Cut off from the world, their reality fractures under the weight of an invisible, malevolent presence that feeds on isolation and fear. With no escape from the cold or from each other, survival becomes a mind-bending descent into madness. Number 17, In My Mother's Skin. In war-torn Philippines during World War II, young Ruby is left in the care of her grieving aunt, an aunt whose sorrow manifests into something far more sinister. Directed by Kenneth Dagatan, In My Mother's Skin unfolds like a dark fairy tale written in carnage and grief. As Ruby's mother lies fatally ill, her aunt's mourning takes form in a grotesque mannequin stitched from the dead woman's flesh, blurring the boundaries between love, memory, and monstrosity. The film's lullaby of shadows, sepia-tinged cinematography, and whispered secrets in a rain-soaked mansion create an atmosphere both beautiful and unsettling. Ruby drifts through fevered nightmares and waking horrors, unsure whether the horror around her is birthed from trauma or ritual. Number 16, The Night Watchmen.
Let's go kill some dead people.
A crew of slack-jawed overnight security guards at a Baltimore newspaper office are forced to test their nerve when a coffin containing the body of a famous clown arrives by mistake. The dead clown, Blimpo, awakens as a vampire and unleashes a plague of undead upon the building, turning staff and hapless delivery men alike into ravenous creatures. With daylight far off and exits blocked, the guards, along with a rookie forced into hazing rituals and a tenacious reporter, must band together to survive the vampiric horde and escape the nightmare they unknowingly unleashed. Equal parts campy horror and absurd comedy, The Night Watchmen thrives on its off-kilter energy, grotesque humor, and never-ending vampire attacks. Number 15, Teeth.
Dentata.
What?
It's Latin for teeth. Inside me.
Dawn is a sweet, shy high school student devoted to her abstinence group and committed to saving herself for marriage. But when she's assaulted by a fellow student, she discovers a horrifying truth. She has a hidden defense mechanism unlike anything else. Directed by Mitchell Lichtenstein, Teeth is a darkly comedic body horror film with razor-sharp edges, both literal and metaphorical. As Dawn begins to explore her body and the terrifying mutation it conceals, she finds herself caught between fear, empowerment, and vengeance. Her condition, a myth come alive, punishes the predatory, leaving a trail of mutilated abusers in its wake. But this is not just a tale of monstrous biology. It's about the awakening of control, survival, and the brutal reclamation of autonomy. Number 14, the Russian sleep experiment.
You gentlemen are about to undergo an experiment that would benefit the soldiers of the Soviet Union.
In a clandestine Soviet facility during the darkest days of state secrecy, 5 political prisoners are sealed inside a hermetic gas chamber and dosed with an experimental stimulant meant to eradicate the need for sleep. What begins as scientific hubris soon twists into a grotesque descent. The inmates scream, claw at their flesh, and spiral into madness under the relentless pressure of enforced wakefulness. As the days stretch on, they become monstrous parodies of themselves. Paranoia, hallucinations, and grotesque transformations erode any trace of humanity left. The walls between sanity and horror collapse in that confined hellscape. The Russian sleep experiment channels whispered nightmares of science gone wrong, and each moment feels like teetering on the edge of an abyss. Number 13, Ivanna.
Siapa? Kak, kayaknya atunya gerak, Kak. Berdiri.
After the sudden death of their parents, Ambar and her younger brother Dika are relocated to an eerie nursing home owned by a family friend. But this place, once a grand colonial mansion, hides a chilling history soaked in blood. Directed by Kimo Stambol, the film slowly unravels the tale of a Dutch woman who met a gruesome fate within these walls, decapitated during a brutal purge of the colonial elite. As Ambar struggles with a rare eye condition that gradually robs her of sight, her other senses sharpen to supernatural terrors. Cold whispers, fleeting shadows, and visions of a woman with no head. One by one, the elderly residents begin to vanish, their mutilated bodies discovered in grotesque poses mirroring old war crimes. The closer Ambar comes to understanding the truth behind Ivanna's murder, the more she realizes the ghost's vengeance is not random. It's ritual, and it's only just begun. Number 12, Deadbirds.
Need to get out of here. We're not leaving here without gold.
Where did you put the body?
A band of Confederate deserters fresh from a violent bank heist flees into the depths of the American Civil War and seeks refuge in a desolate, centuries-old plantation. As night descends and a storm brews, the house's haunted legacy stirs. They discover a crucified scarecrow, hear phantom children crying, and confront demonic apparitions born from twisted rituals. Paranoia fractures the group. Alliances crumble as one by one they vanish, dragged into wells, walls, and darkness. Past sins pulse in every shadow as if the land itself demands blood. Mixing Western grit with occult dread, Deadbirds wrings terror from isolation and moral decay. Directed by Alex Turner, it roots its horror in guilt, madness, and the haunted echoes of a cursed history. Number 11, The Innkeepers. The Yankee Peddler Inn is closing its doors after over a century of business. And its 2 final employees, Claire and Luke, are determined to prove the hotel's haunted reputation true before the last checkout. Directed by Ty West, The Innkeepers is a masterclass in slow-burn horror, where silence and shadows become characters of their own. Claire, armed with recording equipment and a growing obsession with the legend of a bride who died in the hotel, begins documenting unexplained noises, flickering lights, and ghostly whispers from empty hallways. But the deeper she digs, the more the line between investigation and possession begins to blur. As the final night creeps in, the hotel's long-buried secrets claw their way to the surface, echoing footsteps, hidden rooms, and something watching from the darkness. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Humane.
You think I'm the bad guy, but I'm doing important work to save the planet.
In a collapsing future world plagued by environmental disaster, the government enforces population control through voluntary euthanasia. After a family dinner, a patriarch announces he has chosen to sacrifice himself. But when he suddenly backs out, chaos erupts. His adult children are left to face the consequences, triggering a twisted, deadly battle of morals and survival. The deeper you dig,
It's a mother's intuition. But then she revealed to me a sign. Tell my mother what you've done.
After a tragic accident, a reclusive man tries to cover up the death of a teenage girl named Echo, only to find her spirit haunting his every move. Her grieving mother, a psychic, begins to unravel the truth through visions and whispers from beyond. As guilt and grief collide, the boundaries between the living and the dead dissolve into something far more terrifying. Run, sweetheart, run.
What are you?
A single mother agrees to a blind date arranged by her boss, only for the evening to spiral into a nightmare of violence and pursuit. Her charming date reveals himself as a sadistic predator who enjoys hunting women through the streets of Los Angeles. With no one to trust and her phone disabled, she must rely on instinct and endurance to survive the night. The manor.
Mom, we all want you to feel better. Why won't you believe me? I need to get out of this place.
After suffering a stroke, an elderly woman named Judith is placed in a secluded manor-style nursing home that promises care but delivers terror. Isolated and vulnerable, she experiences creeping shadows and cryptic messages from other residents, some of whom have unexpectedly died. As she uncovers the facility's sinister rituals, Judith realizes this manor isn't protecting her, but it's harvesting her fear. Number 10, Nocturne. Inside an elite arts academy, twin sisters Juliet and Vivian are locked in a silent competition. Vivian is the star, a prodigy pianist destined for greatness, while Juliet lingers in her shadow, her talent overlooked, and her ambitions slowly curdling into resentment. Directed by Zoo Quirk, Nocturne plunges into a haunting world of obsession, envy, and dark symphonies. When Juliet discovers a mysterious occult-laced music theory notebook belonging to a recently deceased student, her playing transforms, and so does her personality. As she ascends in skill and recognition, eerie events unfold. Violent visions, cryptic symbols, and a growing fracture between her mind and reality. Number 5, the innkeepers. Number 9, Hobo with a shotgun.
A hobo with a shotgun.
A nameless drifter riding into Hopetown by boxcar dreams of gathering $50 to buy a lawnmower and start a simple life. Instead, he finds the city overrun by sadistic crime lord Drake and his brutal sons, who terrorize the homeless, prostitutes, and powerless alike. When he intervenes to protect a young prostitute, Abby, he becomes a target of the town's corruption, enduring torture, betrayal, and violence that carves scum into his chest. Driven by rage and moral ferocity, he arms himself with a shotgun and embarks on a bloody crusade, toppling thugs, corrupt cops, and even demonic enforcers in a frenzy of vigilante justice. Hobo with a shotgun revels in over-the-top carnage and pulp energy, channeling grindhouse fury through neon gore and righteous wrath. Number 8, Qodrat.
Assalamualaikum, Ustad Qodrat.
Years after a failed exorcism claimed the life of his own son, Ustad Qodrat returns to the Islamic boarding school where his faith once thrived, only to find a village shrouded in terror. Children scream in tongues, crops rot in the fields, and whispers of the demon Aswala rise again, echoes of a past that won't stay buried. Among the afflicted is a boy bearing his son's name, forcing Qodrat to face the ghost of his greatest failure. As darkness spreads, he arms himself with sacred verses and spiritual conviction, stepping into a battle that will test the strength of his soul. Possession is only the beginning. Redemption demands blood and belief. Qodrat is a gripping fusion of religious horror and personal reckoning. Number 7, Stakeland.
Welcome to Stakeland, kid.
America has fallen not to nuclear war or zombies, but to a plague of feral vampires that feed under a blood-red sky. In this apocalyptic wasteland, a grizzled hunter known only as Mr. travels across the ruins with a teenage boy named Martin, training him to survive in a world overrun by predators, both human and undead. Directed by Jim Mickle, Stakeland is a bleak, brutal road trip through the collapse of civilization, where survival depends on stakes, silence, and savagery. As the pair navigate ghost towns, religious cults, and vampire nests, they encounter fleeting glimpses of humanity and harrowing reminders of what's been lost. Each stop along their journey offers a new horror, From grotesque feeding pits to deranged zealots using the vampire outbreak as divine justification for cruelty. Number 6, Becky.
For a key?
It's worth much more than that.
Becky! You're clearly a special girl!
A grieving 13-year-old Becky hopes a weekend at her family's lake house will mend her fractured bond with her father. But their escape turns nightmarish when a gang of ruthless convicts led by a neo-Nazi named Dominic escape custody and storm their sanctuary, taking everyone hostage in a violent siege. As death stalks every hallway, Becky draws on secret reserves of resourcefulness and rage. Booby traps, guerrilla tactics, and sheer ferocity become her tools of survival. Between desperation and vengeance, she transforms from prey into predator, fighting with the sharpness of a child pushed to the edge. Becky pulses with raw tension and slasher grit, magnified by the twisted ideology of its villains and the fierce innocence of its heroine. Number 5, Black Box.
I run my mind, it doesn't run me. I run my mind. It doesn't run me.
After surviving a devastating car crash that killed his wife and erased most of his memory, Nolan struggles to raise his daughter while battling crippling amnesia. Desperate to recover his identity, he agrees to undergo an experimental treatment led by the enigmatic Dr. Lillian Brooks. Black Box is a cerebral blend of sci-fi and psychological horror, plunging Nolan into terrifying hypnotherapy sessions that unravel his fractured mind. But as his memories begin to resurface, they reveal a life far more sinister than he remembers. Glimpses of violence, masked figures, and a monstrous version of himself lurking in the dark. Each session with the Black Box pushes him closer to the truth, where identity becomes a mask and memory a labyrinth. Number 4, The Battery. Ben and Mickey are former baseball teammates navigating the skeletal remains of New England after a zombie apocalypse. As they scavenge roads and forests, Ben embraces ruthless survival, while Mickey yearns for a shred of the life they once knew. A bed, music, connection. Their debates flare when they intercept a radio transmission from a group called The Orchard, tempting Mickey with hope, while Ben sees only danger and trust. When they explore an abandoned house and inconsistencies arise, the tension between them strains to breaking. In a world ruled by the undead, the greatest threat may be friendship left unguarded. The Battery uses sparse kills and long silences to build dread, focusing on character over carnage. It's a quiet, relentless journey through lost survival and fractured bonds. Number 3, Rare Exports.
Selitä sille, että meillä on täällä pukki myytävänä.
High in the snow-blanketed mountains of Finland, a team of researchers uncovers something ancient buried deep in the ice. Something with horns, hooves, and an appetite for punishment. Directed by Jalmari Helander, Rare Exports turns holiday cheer into sheer dread, as it reimagines Santa Claus not as a jolly gift-giver, but as a monstrous entity locked away for centuries. When young Pietari begins to notice local children disappearing and livestock slaughtered in disturbing fashion, he suspects the excavation site has unleashed more than just frozen folklore. Soon he and his father are pulled into a nightmare involving a primal force and its army of naked feral helpers. Elves who don't build toys but hunt for the naughty. Number 2, The Horseman.
What sort of work do you do?
After the tragic drug-related death of his teenage daughter, Christian receives a disturbing video implicating men tied to her exploitation. Consumed by grief and rage, he sets out on a ruthless crusade of vengeance, hunting down each person he holds responsible. Along the way, he picks up Alice, a lonely hitchhiker who bears a haunting resemblance to his daughter. Their fragile bond intensifies the father's single-minded mission, yet her presence also forces him to confront what remains of his humanity. As bodies trail behind him, the line between justice and obsession obliterates. The Horseman is a bleak, merciless thriller about retribution, identity, and devastation. Number 1, Goodnight, Mommy.
Du bist nicht unsere Mama.
In a secluded, ultra-modern house surrounded by fields and forests, twin boys Elias and Lucas welcome their mother home after facial surgery. Her head wrapped in bandages, her demeanor cold and unfamiliar. But as the days pass, the boys begin to suspect that the woman behind the gauze isn't their mother at all. The film is a masterclass in psychological horror and mounting dread, where paranoia festers in every silent glance and unanswered question. The once loving home becomes a battleground of suspicion and fear as the twins search for proof, testing her, spying on her, and finally confronting her. But in this unnerving tale, truth is a shifting illusion and innocence is a fragile mask. With each twist, the story plunges deeper into disturbing territory, revealing just how dangerous love, grief, and mistaken identity can become when left to rot behind closed doors. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Landmine Goes Click.
Model SMI 35 landmine.
If he moves, we all die.
There wasn't anybody to help for miles.
I can't move.
While backpacking in the Georgian wilderness, a young man steps on a landmine and is forced to remain frozen or face certain death. As he waits for help, an unsettling local man arrives and turns the situation into a twisted power play. Helpless, his friend and fiancé become pawns in a psychological and physical game of degradation. Get duped.
You won't get away with this.
We always do.
Let's finish this.
A group of unruly Scottish teens is sent on a Duke of Edinburgh survival challenge deep in the Highlands, only to become targets of a bizarre manhunt. As they traverse forests, bizarre traps and sinister occurrences push them past petty rivalries into desperate alliances. What begins as juvenile rebellion spirals into dark satire and a scramble for survival in a landscape where rules no longer apply. Torn Hearts.
To get to you too.
Two ambitious country singers travel to the home of their reclusive music idol, hoping to collaborate on a song that will launch their careers. What begins as an inspiring visit quickly turns sinister as the legendary star manipulates them against each other. Trapped in a maze of jealousy, obsession, and hidden trauma, the women must decide how far they're willing to go for fame. Ms. Kanyan.
He whose blood is of the tree is born of the tree.
Attention, Sterling Academy.
When ambitious student Amara awakens the legendary Madame Koi Koi at her Nigerian boarding school, the ghost's haunting high-heeled clique becomes the harbinger of terror. As unexplained disappearances and eerie visions escalate, Amara and her classmates must face the malevolent spirit they unleashed. Under Osai's direction, the film blends urban myth with teenage turmoil in a chilling tale of tradition turning cruel.